evening. Welcome everyone to Ishah Oasis, a safe place for women to escape from the deserts of life. And I know this is a program for women to empower, to inspire and motivate women. But I must say that our gentlemen are supporting, and I can already see that we have our gentlemen in the house. Good evening, everyone. Wade, good night. I'm happy to see you, and I'm just overjoyed. I know that persons will be coming in shortly because this evening we have an amazing guest, and I can't wait to share with everyone who she is because this is someone I have been admiring from my, as Jamaicans would say, your knee, at my knees, because she was a family name. She was a star in my community, my church, and it is an honor, a great privilege. And I know I speak of honor and privilege a lot, but on my scale of honor, she is a high 9. This is like a lifetime achievement to have the Dr. Grace Kelly in the house with me. And this evening, she will be addressing our mothers. There are mothers who have been wearing a mask, as I posted on Facebook, before COVID, persons go around smiling, but deep down, they are in pain, in grief. Some of them have it covered. Some ladies, some of us have it covered. We have not aired it, have not spoken about it, have not dealt with it. And this evening, we have a specialist in the house, and I'm going to tell you about her. Let me go ahead and read her bio. And this is the short version because, of course, this lady, she is a grand lady who has been around for a long time. You can imagine that her accolades and accomplishments, we cannot speak about it today because it would take all the time. So let me tell you, she is an author, corporate trainer, counselor, crisis interventionist, grief and bereavement therapist, international motivational speaker. Dr. Kelly is an associate professor at Northern Caribbean University, and that university is in my beautiful island home, Jamaica. A passionate community development worker who has worked with a number of churches and a wide range of local, international, government, and non-government community-based organizations to develop, implement, and positively impact community and nation-building efforts. She has received many awards, as I said before, too numerous to share here. The latest being the 2019 Governor General's Achievement Award for the Parish of Manchester. Jamaicans know that this is a great deal. This is like the cream of, this is one of the highest awards you can receive as a Jamaican. She has published a book titled Grieve If You Must, and you need to write it down because you may want to get it. She is the host of Let's Talk Life and Legacy, a moment with Dr. Grace on YouTube, her YouTube channel, Facing Life, and this is on her YouTube channel and Facebook. And it alternates on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. We will all be there on whatever Wednesday she is streaming. And this is the part I love, guys. Her life theme is, for what I do know about God, I can trust him for what I do not know. Isn't that beautiful? For what I do know about God, I can trust him with what I do not know. Wow. Welcome, Dr. Kelly. Thank you for agreeing to come on this evening. It is a privilege. Persons are here to feed from the oasis. They're here to feed from the wealth of knowledge that you will be pouring out. So this evening, our emphasis is about grief that mothers face through abortion and miscarriage. As you know, non-judgmental zone. This is where you come to be refreshed. The disclaimer is that even though we're speaking about grief, this is not a mournful session. This is not a sad session, Dr. Kelly. This session is about hope. She'll be speaking life into mothers who have experienced this unfortunate situation and she'll be giving you tips on how to overcome and to live a fulfilling and amazing life. I know you're dying to hear her voice. Dr. Kelly, go ahead and just greet everybody.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's an honor to be here. And Yvette, this you mentioned that it has been an honor for you. It is more than an honor to be sharing the space with you. I have admired you, and the Lord has really been gracious to you in terms of how He has lifted you up to become such a phenomenal woman, impacting so many lives around the world. So, congratulations on all your achievements, and thank you for taking the time to care enough to organize these sessions for persons, and in particular this evening for women who would have been mourning and grieving, and some, as you mentioned, in silence and may have had a mask on. But this evening, this is your safe space. We are here to share with you, and we hope that at the end of this conversation, that you will feel and appreciate and understand that grieving can be done as seamless as we breathe. I hope that that will be your experience. So happy to have you. Welcome, everyone. And let's talk.
Yes, let's talk. And Dr. Grace, I want to just acknowledge persons. I said Wade is in the house, always here. We have Renee Ellis. We have Love Inc., Speaking Grace TV, Teacher S. Higgins. And these are all my wonderful friends. I love them so much. My YouTube family.
Great.
Yes, they're here to support and, of course, to be blessed. Go ahead and share this live with someone you know who can benefit, because we want persons to be blessed by it. And if you're catching it on the replay, thanks for joining. We're happy to have you. Dr. Kelly, I just want, before I get to you talking, because this evening is about you sharing your wisdom, I just want to share some scriptures that I believe could be a source of strength and encouragement to persons who are here. So I came across Lamentations 3, verse 20 to 23. It says, my soul continually thinks of it and is bowed down with me. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. The steadfast love of the Lord never cease. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is thy faithfulness. The Lord is my portion, says my soul. Therefore I will hope in him. And another one, Matthew 5, verse 4, it says, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. This evening, we have the Queen of Compassion here with us, Dr. Grace Kelly, for those who are joining. And she's here to comfort you and to help you to get through a hard period, or someone you know, or help you to be more empathetic with persons you know who are going through a challenging time. We're talking about abortion and miscarriage, the grief associated with it. So Matthew 11, verse 28 says, come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden's light. Scriptures of hope. My friend Dawson is in the house. Thank you for joining. We have Dr. Kelly. And so I'm going to hand the mic to her because we want to hear from her. We're here to get her expertise on a matter. So Dr. Kelly, please share with us the grieving process associated with abortion and miscarriage. Take us through, what a woman goes through. What does it look like, or should it look like? You as the expert, we would love to hear from you.
Thank you, Elite. It's my pleasure to share. And as we are going to be talking about the grieving process, I would like to first share a brief definition or some thoughts on what grief is. And I must say how I appreciate the text, the various Bible texts that you have used to provide comfort, even at the beginning, to understand that God is in this thing with us, so we are not alone. Grief is referred to as the process of how we react to our perception of a loss. So when we have lost something, our body, our mind, we react to it, we respond to it. So, and it's not just the loss, but the perception of the loss. And having a miscarriage or an abortion is a loss of part of who you are, a loss of a person that you probably had great plans for. So it is a perception. Next, grief is one of the most common human experience that exists. And most times we see grief as an interference to our life, as if it should not happen. And in fact, nobody, not even God or Father, intended for us to have to go through pain for us to grieve. So if your brain tells you that it is an interference, it's correct. But the fact of the matter is, because we are alive and we are breathing, we will hurt. And because grief is a natural response to pain, we are going to grieve. So it is now to be considered within the context as a intrinsic part of our life rather than an interference. And sometimes, grief is thrown at us, and it seems as if this huge elephant, this monster that cannot be tamed, or it cannot be managed. But the truth of the matter is, with proper skills and techniques, which some of them I'll share with you this afternoon, you can learn how to work through your pain. And notice I said through, not get over, because you don't get over pain or grief. You get through it. So that's critical. And I will take you through the journey. What does that look like? When someone would have lost a child, whether, well, the miscarriage normally happens within the first trimester. Sometimes people go through and have a miscarriage or a natural abortion without even knowing. It wasn't even confirmed that they were pregnant, but because of what happened, they would have gone to the doctor and they probably would have known. For others, they knew they were. And they start just at the moment when you start nurturing, you start imagining that wonderful child and what that would mean for you. You would have lost it. For some, it's because of how you would have gotten pregnant. Perhaps through rape, perhaps it was just a moment in time when it was unplanned for and your entire future would have been collapsed, or so you thought, because at that moment we are not thinking and things happen. And so, because of the nature of what happened, the first thing that happens when a loss occurs is the shock and the denial. No, it is not true. It cannot be so. And even if it was a planned activity like abortion, after the act, you're wondering, oh my God, did I ever do this? So you're still in shock, and there is denial, and then there's emotional release where it could be anger, frustration. For some people, the emotional release may come and appear as if it is joy because, hey, it's over now. But we realize that that would turn into something else later. There's this anxiety that happens. Oh my life, what is it that they're going to think about me? How am I going to live through this? And all those questions would have come. So you become very anxious and wondering what the future holds. After that, the anger and guilt for some, the guilt for some persons, perhaps they may think they would have done something wrong. But remember, a miscarriage could happen for physical reasons, psychological reasons too. It could be just something wrong with the egg or the uterus. There are so many things that could have caused it. So a miscarriage can happen with or without you doing anything. So you don't necessarily have to blame yourself. But our minds, we tend to just get and feel guilty, and then we move into depression and loneliness. And this is the worst part of it all. When someone that you get the person get to the stage of despair where it is so dark and dismal, they sometimes wonder, is there a God? Does it worth living? Do I need to? And all those things. It's the darkest place that you could find yourself emotionally. And would you believe it's at this point where persons really need the support of their family and friends and their loved ones? And unfortunately, at this point is where most times people leave them, not because they don't care, but because the pain might be so deep for them also to treat with that they know not what to do. So after you get into that deep, dark space, the only place left for you to go is to stay there or get up and move out. So your mind now start helping, you start feeling, indifferent about what may have transpired, then apathy and fatigue, then intermittent interest. Say, for example, you're accustomed to doing some things with your spouse or your friends. Because of the miscarriage or the abortion, you withdrew and you stopped doing those things. So at this point, when you're getting out of that dark place, there's a little intermittent interest in the things that you were accustomed. And then you start, they're called re-entry troubles. If, for example, you had stopped interacting with your spouse and or your family members because of the loss of the child, then you at this stage now, when you start coming back, you start interacting with them and they shun you because they don't know. And pardon me, I it's coming to my mind and I want to say it because for some of the persons with whom we've interacted who have gone through this, they don't know the hell you've been through. So they can't understand why is it that you had stopped talking with them and now you want to face up. The reality is you had no strength. You had nothing left. You thought you had lost it all. But now you're realizing that, you can move on a little. And so that's what you call re-entry troubles, when you're adjusting to the new life and you're being shunned and different things happen. You're having to go back to work or school or whatever the situation, and you are not able to adapt as normal as you were before. There's also where you start feeling healing a little bit and adjusting to what we call new normal. And now, if we knew not what new normal was before, during COVID, everybody knows. And then you get back to reinvestment. So the truth of the matter is the anger, the denial, the bargaining, and then the acceptance, and then the new life. That's the stages of grief that you go through. And it doesn't necessarily have to go in a linear order. It pushes you back and forth. So that's what happened to persons who would have had an abortion or who would have had a miscarriage. They go through the grieving process.
Wow. So you say anger, denial, bargaining?
Yeah, it's acceptance.
Acceptance and
the new normal.
New normal. All right. So we're educating at this point. We want persons to know, because a lot of people may be at different phases in the grief process, or they probably skip, or because we'll be talking about that a bit, Doc, because I want you to explain healthy ways of going through the grieving process. But for those who are coming, we have Dr. Grace Kelly, and this evening we are talking about abortion and miscarriage, the grieving process, because we want to help persons to deal with these issues. As a life coach, I personally have come across so many persons who are part of hindering their progress in life is this grief that they have not dealt with. They have this shame dealing with, and we want you to know that we are speaking about both abortion and miscarriage, but this is not a place where we're condemning or condoning abortion. We are just speaking about the fact that it's a reality that persons have gone through this, and as women who love, as we say, that Ishah Oasis is a place where you come to be crowned, and we forgot to put on the crowns. Dr. Kelly, put on the crowns right now. We have so many persons in the house now, put on your crowns for me, and you're here to be cushioned. This is a place of love and hope and restoration, and we want to acknowledge those who are coming in. Elizabeth Moore. We have persons who are doing a great job. Be Love Inc. and Inspired for Purpose. They are just interacting with our guests in the chat. I appreciate them so much. Blessings, Iaguina. Thank you for coming. Because of this topic and because we have so much to speak about, pardon me if I don't get to acknowledge everybody on the live, but because we want to cover and we want persons to benefit from Dr. Kelly's wisdom. So just bear with us if you're not being acknowledged, but we have first continue talk using the chat, and we have persons who will be addressing you there. So here we have learned about the different phases in the grieving process. Dr. Kelly has given us a mouthful, a lot to think about persons, you know, the different pains and different, because this is something that affects not just the person who is going through it, but Dr. Kelly, persons who are in a relationship. The person who's involved in the relationship needs to be aware of some of the process that you just explained and how to deal with this person who is grieving. As a sister, a friend, a mother, a neighbor, a co-worker, whatever it is, we are all operating, and no man is an island, no woman is an island. And so we are here this evening to share and to learn on how to help persons to get through this process. And if you are one that has been unfortunate to have gone through it, we want you to leave here so refreshed that, listen, you're going to deal with your grief in a healthy way so that you can start living and thriving again. And that takes me to my second question, Dr. Kelly. You speak about the different processes, and if the little that I know about grief, and some of it I learned from you, because when I was a police officer, I remember you coming to training school and talking to us about grief. So it is not something to suppress. It is not something to ignore. It is not something to shove under a carpet and say, listen, I'm just going to get up and just, you know, be happy and carry on. It's like you putting a band-aid on a wound and not dressing it, and we know it will fester. So we want you to be wholesome and to go through the process in a healthy way, whoever it is watching at this point, whether on the replay or the live. So Dr. Kelly is going to tell us now, what counsel or guidance would you give a mother who has experienced such agony? How would you advise them on dealing with this trauma in a healthy way?
Okay. I appreciate that question, and that's something that everybody needs to know. But please allow me, before I answer that question directly, for those who may have come in after I started, I just want to highlight there are three main concepts that I'd like for everybody to get this evening. When we are talking about a loss, whether it be abortion or whether it be miscarriage, you would have lost something. The three concepts I need to remember is that the grief is a process of how we react to our perception of the loss. So if we see it as a huge loss, then it's going to affect us in a huge way, all right, or the vice versa. The next terminology you need to note is bereavement. Just by having that loss is a state of having a loss. You said you are bereaved. A lot of persons do not treat persons who have had abortion or sometimes miscarriage as bereaved. They just treat them as something that is nameless. So because of that, it's difficult for persons to treat with this. And the last one, the third one, is mourning, which is a time frame that in which you are grieving. So it's a time of sadness. You'll appreciate the reason for me to have shared those. When we are talking now, you asked about counsel that we would have given to a mother, someone who might experience agony of dealing with the trauma. It's always difficult. And sometimes we don't know what to do because we are feeling helpless or ill-equipped. Sometimes we are sad, feeling embarrassed and hurt. We are prone to judge ourselves or being judged by others. And sometimes you feel like you need to be rescued and you turn to the wrong person.
Wow.
You're hurt and you're out of control, and so that causes other issues. So the best thing that we can do sometimes is just relax. For those who are treating with the person, sometimes our best response is listen, listen, listen. I heard them say God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a purpose. Listen. Sometimes that's all that matters. Respect their space, mental and physical space. And even if it is you who are going through this, your brain has a tendency of telling you a lot of negative things. Try to avoid listening to the negative. And if you're talking to somebody who has gone through this pain and this agony, use words that heal rather than hurt. I know just how you feel. How does that sound? It sounds good, right? But you never know.
Yes. I mean,
Nobody else knows how you feel. You hear people say, you'll get over it. How do you treat with that? You can't get over something like that. Don't think about it. Don't cry. Be strong. And sometimes we who are going through pain, we tell ourselves those things, but we have to be real. So we have to acknowledge where we are, acknowledge what's happening to us, and change the negative to positive.
Right.
You can't know how I feel. And if you are talking to the individual, I can't know exactly how you feel, but I can appreciate what that feels like. I care about how you feel. What is the hardest part for you?
So these are statements that we should be using.
These are statements, positive statements that we should be using.
And I'm hoping that we're
somebody.
So much awesome things are being said here, Doctor. I have to interject. I'm here, I have my notebook and I'm taking the notes, because so often we think that saying to somebody, I know how you feel, it sounds good to us. But you're saying that that's not something to say, because we can never know what the person is feeling. So I just want you to repeat for us again. Repeat the things that are more that we should be saying to persons, if we should say, because you do say listening is the most critical thing.
It is. So the person who is going through that needs to block their minds from the negative. But we who are talking with the individuals, we can ask such thing as, what's the hardest thing for you? What's the hardest time of the day? What's the most difficult time of day? Because for some people, it's when they go to bed and they realize that they would have missed an opportunity to be cuddling a child. For some, it's when they wake up and they are going to work and they see other children and those kind of stuff. So I would say to the individual who has been hurting, understand that life throws at us different things, but we are not our experience. We are more than that. So fill your mind with positive things. I am a child of God. I am forgiven. I am healed. Those kinds of self-talk, those things can help. And when you are talking to the individual, you can ask, is there anything that I can do? Probably at home, can I change something in the house that would make it easier for you to manage? Because maybe the moment, for some people, they plan their pregnancies and they would even purchase the crib, they would purchase things, and especially if they are kind of certain that it's going to be the sex of the child or the gender of the child, and they buy the color. So the room is fixed and all of that. So sometimes you may have to ask, can I adjust something? And in doing that, Only make promises that you can keep. If the end result is not dependent on you, don't make the promise,
Right.
because you may make a promise that you cannot keep, and your word should be your bond. I hope I answered your question.
You have done so wonderful. I mean, there is so much, Dr. Kelly, that I'm saying I'm gonna have to watch this replay to take the notes efficiently, because I'm here and I'm seeing these people. They're giving some wonderful comments. Inspired for Purposes, so powerful. We are not our experience. We are more than that. Dropping gems, Dr. Kelly. Grace said the same thing. We are more than our experience, but we have persons here who are sharing their testimony in brief. There are persons who have had 5 miscarriages, and when I was sharing it, persons were saying they have friends with 7, that kind of thing. So I am here, and at the end of this, we're gonna pray for persons like these. But Dr. Kelly is here, as I said. This is not a grieving moment. We're not here to it's of hope. We're praying that when you leave here, you will be so
Empowered.
with necessary tools. You'll be empowered, you'll be enriched to deal with it in a better way, and to help others along the way to deal with it. So she just spoke about healthy ways of going through the process, and she touched on the third question, because she's that amazing kind of person. Because the third question was, how would family members, friends, that kind of thing, spouses, deal with it? So we are here with Dr. Grace Kelly, for those who are just joining, and my friends, Beloved Inc., Inspired for Purpose, Speaking Grace, Blessings Iaguina, different persons, so many persons in the chat. We welcome you. We're happy. Teacher Higgins, thanks for joining, and we're happy for the conversation that you're having. I'll be noting the questions that you have, because of course Dr. Kelly is here as the expert to address them. But Dr. Kelly, I have seen different forms. As I said, I've heard of different stories, situations where persons have to deal with this grief situation. And how would you advise a young lady who has been married for some time, years, and suffered 1 or more miscarriages, and they're obviously depressed, about the constant questions that persons, friends, families, church members, associates asking when they are going? Persons ask this question, very insensitive, and they are not aware of it. They think they're, having a conversation. When are you going to have a child? And I've heard a lot of women who have been going through the miscarriages. This is not something you walk and tell the whole world. It is a pain that most people deal with in secret. And I've heard that mothers, they endure so much more when someone approached them and said, "You're married for such and such a, when you're going to have a little one like you." How would you advise persons to deal with that? What would you call it now? It would be like they're throwing salt in the wound. Advise us on that.
All right. What I appreciate is that you share that this is a space where we are not here mourning and groping in darkness. So we're gonna put a little humor in it.
All
So
right.
one of the things that you can do is actually add some humor to it, and just remind them that Sarah and Abraham, they were way beyond the time when people expected them to have a child before the Lord allowed them to. So you can put a little humor in it, because the truth of the matter is, if you try to shun the questions, it will keep hounding you. It will keep coming back at you. So the other thing that you can do is re-echo the response or the statements that people are making at you or sharing with you. And sometimes when you do that, it narrow the window of where one would feel ashamed or guilty about something. Just re-echo what they are saying so they can hear what they are saying. And
Yes.
if they have a conscience, it will help them to appreciate that you are also human being. So those are some nice Christian way to do it.
Christian way.
Being depressed, it's not something you plan for and set a timeline that, okay, I am going to feel depressed over this because I'm not having a child. It happens because of how you process what's happening to you also. So one of the things that you can do if you have been having, and I've heard of stories, and I've seen individuals who have had sometimes up to 3, 4 miscarriages within less than a year.
Wow.
And how does one deal with that? Only God knows.
Only
So
God
know
knows.
what's happening to you. If you know what's happening to you, then you are better able to manage that. And the way you can know is through consultation with your medical doctor. So they'll tell you what causes miscarriage. Because as I mentioned before, the literature suggests is a whole range of things
Yes.
that can cause it. Even
Right.
your very diet, your frame of mind, how you think, the stresses that you go through. So know what's happening so you'll be able to manage the circumstances. Own what's happening also. Um, it's an event that happens to you, and I'm going to use something from academics where it says failure is an event and not a person. Again, similar to what I shared earlier, having a miscarriage, that does not define you. It's an event that happens to you, and you can manage an event, but you cannot control all the details of it.
Right.
The next thing, live your best. And here I'm taking this out of the leadership repertoire of subject areas that are being discussed nowadays. Live your best self. No one can be you. No one can sing your song for you. No one can dance your rhythm. No one can be you. Live your best self because your best self is tolerant of who you are. Your best self understands who you are. Your best self knows the depth of your pain, and
Yes.
your best self know where to find solution to your pain. It might be difficult in the initial stage, but I guarantee you that you will find it if you search for it. Because in counseling, one of the things that we know as counselors is that the answers for every challenge that any human face is within themselves. And all we do is to lead them to find what that answer is. So
Wow.
those are some of the things I would suggest.
Yes.
Don't feel that you are less than.
Right.
And if God designed for you to be a mother, age is just a number. But
Amen.
being realistic, treat yourself well, follow the health principles as best as you can. Make sure that you are compatible before you get married. And if you didn't know before, go to the specialist to find out what you can do to make sure that you are. And there are many millions of ways in which you can still be pregnant or still be able to have a child using your eggs.
Wow. Look at that. So she's dropping some hope. Ren friend says, PowerPoint, live your best self. Yes, today we're making a commitment. We're living our best self. No one can be you. Dr. Kelly is here and she's just giving us some great tips. She's giving us some great gems, great nuggets. Sharon Williams says, wow, no one can sing your song for you. That's a lifetime takeaway. I'm agreeing with that. Teacher Higgins says, church people are so insensitive at times. And yes, we know us single people gets it as well. So a lot of
Mhm,
persons are sharing their testimonies. We have
mhm,
Marcia Rule, and we are just giving her lots of love. And before I go to the next scenario, Dr. Kelly, I just want to share Psalm
mhm,
170, 107, sorry, Psalm 107, verse 35 to 36. And
mhm,
this is the Passion Translation. It says, but he also can turn a barren wilderness into an oasis with water. He can make springs flow into desert lands and turn them into fertile valleys so that cities spring up. God
mhm,
wants to take every dry, desolate, and barren place in your life and bring refreshing rain to them all. He
Mhm.
desires to give them something beautiful out of nothing. And this is Isha Oasis, my friends. This is a place where you come to escape the deserts of life. I am hoping that when we leave this place this evening, after from Dr. Grace Kelly's Oasis, of course, in partnership with Isha Oasis, that our ladies will not be able to feel inspired, but they will be able to run and tell another lady about this awesome experience of being inspired, motivated, telling us how beautiful we are and that God definitely has a wonderful place for each of us.
Mhm.
So Morgan says failure is not an event, not not a person. It's an event, not a person.
Mhm.
Right. So we have the beautiful comments coming in, guys. If I'm not getting everybody, Elizabeth Moore, she's saying beautiful ashes. And
Yes.
persons are speaking about the great support they have in friends and spouses, that kind of thing. So this evening we're celebrating those as well. And we are encouraging persons that listen, this thing here, whatever it is that has happened to you, it doesn't define you. There is hope. So Dr. Kelly, I want to give you another scenario. So, how would you advise a young lady who has been struggling with guilt and
Mhm.
shame after making the choice to do an abortion?
All right. It's a choice that one would have made, and God understands the motives. He understands our motives. Okay, not justifying it, but
Yeah,
just reinforcing that He
right.
understands our motive. The good thing is, feel guilty. Yes, you should feel guilty, because guilt
Yes.
will push you into the
Repentance.
forgiven arms and his
Yes.
embrace. But shame, not at all. You have nothing to defend, nothing to be ashamed of. You're not defending it. You're not going to be ashamed of it. What shame does, it pushes you away from the forgiveness, from the comfort that you could receive. It puts you in a mind frame that you're worthless and you're undeserving. So that's my first suggestion. It's okay to feel guilty because it is something that was done that you are aware that was not right. But feeling shame is what will keep you in despair and keep you not wanting to go close to He who can transform you. The next thing I would suggest is manage the triggers. It's a choice you make. And for some people, the way how they treat you after you've had a miscarriage or an abortion, it makes you feel as if, I think I mentioned that already, there is no hope. Things will happen. Manage the triggers, because earlier we spoke about the issue of depression. And again, depression happens for various reasons. But the triggers, what we call triggers, are things like the stressful job. For some persons, it may cause a miscarriage because they are stressed out, and the physical demand on their body caused them to have lost the child. Life events that are seriously stressful, like divorce, breakup, the death of someone, all of those, it can cause one to have a miscarriage, because psychologically, if you're not well and if certain things are not managed, the impact that it has on your physical may result in that. Another thing that we need to do is to when we manage the triggers is, say, for example, the smell, the sense. You may have been raped and you decide that you could not carry that child. It
Right.
may not have been a rape, but it could be with someone who you would want nothing, you'd want to have nothing to do with that person. And you decided that you're going to have an abortion.
Right.
If it happens, it is already happened. It has already happened. Don't beat yourself up. You know, one of the challenges I heard somebody talk about in the group, somebody mentioned about the church members are so critical. I don't remember the exact words that was used. But the
Right.
truth of the matter is, in our society today, the people who are going around and having abortions, and you know why they have abortions, because they have sexual intercourse. And
Right.
they are going around and they're living all kind of life. And they will have millions. I remember, this is a joke, but I think it happened for real in a certain community, where the
Mm.
young lady went to the doctor and the doctor said to the young lady, your womb is like a cemetery.
Mm.
And she went around and telling everybody, the doctor said my womb is like a cemetery. And she didn't know what he was saying is that there are so many dead bones in it. I mean, that's not literal, but so many abortions. And she was excited about it, but she did not know. That was ignorance, of course, and it's a joke. You can laugh. But essentially, if someone gets pregnant, that's when they sin, not when they have sexual intercourse. And I'm talking about the other side now, not when you have a legitimate marriage. But be it as it may, a certain sense may trigger when you smell a perfume or the perspiration or something that was happening during the time when you were getting pregnant. It can trigger that. Manage the emotion, manage the guilt, and drop the shame. That's all I'm saying. Ask for help also. If you can't do it alone, that's why God made some as counselors and some as therapists and
Yes.
others who can just listen without being judgmental with you.
Right. Right. That was well done, Dr. Kelly. That was a great, and of course, you shared the joke. I see your sister is on. Yulin Kelly. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You have
Okay, and
here. And my mentor in Toastmasters, Domain Gordon, he says, and if you notice, I'm enunciating now because I want to get my speech right. He's in the house. He says, ask for help. Yes, guys, thanks for joining. We're having a conversation and we are close to wrapping up. But this has been an awesome conversation, Dr. Kelly. There's so much to learn. As I said, I'm going to have to do the replay and take notes. Um, Friends and friends, she says, manage the emotions, manage the guilt, and drop the shame. That's exactly what Dr. Kelly is saying this evening. Because if you want to live a fulfilling life, if you want to thrive and to go beyond, she mentioned earlier, and I know that somebody put it in the chat, that yes, you will feel guilt, but it's a shame that you do not want to carry. So we want to go through the grieving process of whether it is abortion or miscarriage, but we want to learn to deal with it and we want to be empowered so that we can move beyond it. And of course, she stressed the point that it's a perception of the loss. For some persons, for whatever reason, a loss for them. Dr. Kelly, I was reading something where they're saying that naturally or ordinarily, a loss should be somewhere a month or something to that extent. They're saying that it's our mind that takes it beyond how you, and I think you touched something about it, that perception. I probably that's the same thing where it's because for some people, and I don't know if I'm being correct in saying that persons milk the grief for whatever reason, like it's extended, while other persons will get over, they will bounce back, as we say, and function normally. I don't know if
get through, not get over.
not get over, get through. Thanks for the correction. So,
But
in the purpose, say we as Christians sometimes are the most judgmental, unforgiving towards the shortcoming of others. So at Ishah Oasis, we're proud. We're not judging anybody. We're not condoning anything, but we're telling persons that, listen, the situation or the challenges that you go through in life, they do not have to define you. You can rise above them. And so this evening, it's all about hope. This is the Oasis where you come to escape the deserts of life. Teacher Higgins says, inspired for purpose. So true. We are judgmental. So we're not bashing the church this evening. By the way, we know that persons are like that, but we're telling us, let us be an example here. And the last scenario I want to put to you, Dr. Kelly, is, and I think you answered it in one of your questions, but I'm still putting it out there. So a person who gets depressed, when you spoke of the triggers, that is, when they see other people enjoying their children. And this is something, I have been in leadership position in the church. And every year when we have Mother's Day service, that kind of thing, we notice that there are some women who retreat. They even leave the service or they do not come. And you can tell that they are agonizing. You can tell that this particular day in the year when we are celebrating, some persons, they do not know how to handle it. So can you tell, how can you offer, what tips can you offer to the mother who is undergoing this distress? How they can handle it, and how would you say to persons who have to deal with this kind of people, how we can be more sensitive?
Okay, I'll touch on the one being sensitive in terms of when you're treating with the person. Just remind you of some of the things I shared earlier about avoiding the statements that hurt and use empowering statements for them. And on both counts, for the mother though, who has lost, managing the triggers I mentioned earlier is one of the most important aspects. And name them, don't just manage them. Well, you can't manage something if you don't know what it is. So identify what the triggers are. And when you name them, you can actually get an exercise book. As a matter of fact, if you, well, later on I'll share that other aspect. But name the triggers, write them down. What is it that caused me to hurt about the abortion or the miscarriage? Write them down. When you write them down, you actually free yourself of the impending threat that it posed to you. And if you want to write them down and then flush them or burn them, but get it out of your system, know what they are. Identify the source of those triggers. And if the source of those triggers are all from your far past, it means that your past is catching up with your present and will affect your future. So you need to know where you are going to cause that eclipse to rest. All right? Be mindful about transference or projection, in terms of projecting the hurt, the feeling, the guilt onto something or someone else, or transference and counter-transference in the context of counseling, where you see someone who look exactly like what you anticipated your child to be looking at that age. And then you start treating the child, sometimes loving, sometimes in anger, because they represent that.
Wow.
All right? Own your reaction. Owning the reaction always allow us to take a step towards healing and letting go of the pain. It's very, very important. Owning, all right? Then next, remain calm and self-regulate. Don't get flustered too much. And if you are getting flustered, if you are in church and it's Mother's Day and you're getting very upset, sit down, take a deep breath, calm yourself and say, this is where I am. Today you call the date out and you acknowledge, if you are able to do that on your own, that your past is your past. And if you can, let it go. If you can't, when you go home, buy a balloon and blow in the balloon. You blow the hurt in there, blow it in there, tie it up, and let it go. So you have a symbol of letting go that
Wow.
past. It's very important. It says, if you do not let go, you cannot hold on to anything else, because if your hands are closed,
Yes.
it's not open to receive anything. So maybe lots of blessings coming and you don't know. Practice mindfulness, being mindful of where you are and who you are and whose you are. And use the Bible scriptures or other inspirational guide to guide you. Develop and implement a self-care plan. How am I going to care for myself mentally? How am I going to care for myself physically, emotionally? Develop and implement the self-care plan. Take a break if you must. If you're in the church, if you're in the function, if you're in the car, well, if you are driving and you are the driver and somebody else is in there talking and you can control, it's okay to say to them, would you mind just for this moment not talk about that subject, because you have a right to that.
Yes. Yes.
So you ask permission to shift, or you can change the subject yourself. Find humor in the matter. I mentioned earlier, if possible, find some humor and share in the humor. But don't disguise your pain so you can't treat with it. Because your pain is like building muscle. The way you treat your pain is like how you build muscle.
Wow.
If you use your muscle, they grow. If you don't use them, they don't. So if you keep hiding the pain and not treating with it, you know what's gonna happen. Or if you keep focusing on it, get help, seek therapy, and practice acceptance. I accept my reality. I am, and you end it. Make vows to yourself, but vows that you can keep. And know that you are not alone. Don't ever think that nobody else is going through that. The moment you start thinking that, you defeat yourself. Every one of us have our skeleton in our closet. Every one of us have our pain that we have to go through. Every one of us have something that we are working on. And if you ever think you are the only one, you defeat yourself, because healing happens in communities, in a community of support.
Yes. Yes. So this evening we are supporting healing. We are supporting this evening, this whole conversation, it's about hope. It's about dealing with and helping others to deal with these things. It's not an overnight thing, Dr. Kelly. We are not
It's
expecting
not.
that after this conversation. But Dr. Kelly has given so many tips that we can practice, or it should at least whet your appetites to go ahead and do extra reading and have conversations and seek to help another person or to deal with the matter yourself. I see in the chat where several persons are saying that the analogy of the balloon, Dr. Kelly, I know that it's resonated with a lot of persons, and it's something that they will go with. Very practical, and of course we can implement it in different places in our lives. We are talking about grief this evening, and no two persons have the same situation. A person might be having a grief that lasts 10 years for whatever reason, and somebody else will have it for a year, a few months, and deal with it. But it's not for you to feel like something is wrong with you as a person. She has given tips, she has given different suggestions and guidelines where you can find help, that kind of thing. There's so much, Dr. Kelly. If I'm trying to, this evening you spoke about self-regulate, you speak about practice mindfulness. These are things we can read upon very powerful tips and tools. And you said to develop and implement, what was it again? Self-care?
Self-care plan.
Self-care plan.
Mhm.
So many things. As I said, I'm gonna have to go back and get all these wonderful gems. But we have come to the end. We have gone over an hour. This is a topic that probably need a 2 hour to discuss at length. I see that a lot of persons came late. I'm talking to Dr. Grace Kelly, and I am Hilette Virgo, your host. This is Hillspiration with Coach Hilette, and we want you to get to know more about Dr. Kelly. She has a YouTube channel. What's the name of your channel, Dr. Kelly?
It's Faith in Life.
Faith in Life. And you can also find her. What's your website?
The website is not fully up as yet, but the Facebook page is Let's Talk Life and Legacy.
Yes.
And there is also another Grieve If You Must support group on Facebook that we have. I've WhatsApped the information to you. I'm not sure how to get it in the thing. You can share it with our listeners.
Yes.
And yes, Facing Life is a YouTube channel on which you can find similar. There is a program that we did in December, a conversation about grief. And also there's a link where you can find my book on Advent Source. I'll have you send that to the folks. The book is called Grieve If You Must, a 21-day program for grieving, healing, and restoration. And it's a therapeutic autobiographical approach that is used. So that's how you can connect.
Yes. And I had planned to get my copy before this interview, but definitely I'm going to go get it. Check it out, guys. Grieve If You Must, because we're arming ourselves with the tools to help us to live a thriving, meaningful, amazing life. Life is short, but we know that there are challenges in life, but we're learning how to deal with them, how to overcome them. Domain Gordon, he says, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a hard battle. Yes, PowerPoint. And that's been spoken by Ian McLaren. And so we're here wrapping up. Dr. Kelly, just say in a nutshell, you have heard you know the questions that I've asked earlier. We just want you to summarize, and I've read for you some of the comments that are coming from the chat. What would you say to the person who has gone through miscarriage or abortion? We want you to address them, and we want to address persons who should play the supporting role. Just your summary.
My summary is grief is not a respect of person. And everyone, as long as you're breathing, you're going to have some challenge with pain. If you have had an abortion, if you have had a miscarriage, I wanna let you know that God is a very present, practical, personal God who cares and understands. And for those who might be hurting so badly and wondering, for those who may have had a miscarriage, I've read of a passage in the inspiration word that in the end, the little children are going to be carried by angels to their mothers. So you can anticipate receiving your child or children.
Wow.
Grieving is to pain as breathing is to life. So grieve if you must. And those who are supporting, please respect their privacy, respect them as an individual, and treat everyone as you would have wanted to be treated yourself. Remembering that the Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and he saves those who are crushed in spirit. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. so you too shall be healed. That would be my word
Yes.
for you.
Wow, 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 wow. Wow. And speaking Grace is cheering you there too. She's saying deep. You have given us so much, Dr. Kelly. This has been an amazing evening. We have been inspired, we have been educated, we have been encouraged. We have, this is a lot that you have done this evening, and we appreciate you so much. I must extend thank you all. Thank you for coming on behalf of all the persons here who have benefited this evening. We have persons I know for a fact who will be leaving here transformed, feeling as if they have indeed come to the oasis. They have been refreshed, renewed, and of course, we can go on in the desert of life, few more miles until next Monday when you come back to drink again. This is a safe place. And I say women because Isha in Hebrew is women. But our men are here, they're supporting. I appreciate so much. Teacher Higgins says, yes, we serve a God that heals the brokenhearted. What a high note to leave on. He heals the brokenhearted. So thank you, Dr. Grace Kelly, and I'm thanking all the persons who have joined, who have been here, contributing with their thoughts in the chat. I appreciate so much. There's so many. If I try to name them all, I'm going to get in some trouble. But thank you so much. I see the comments. And for those who are here silently watching, I appreciate you so much. This is a chat that is worth sharing with someone you know would benefit. This is just amazing. Thank you, one and all. And Dr. Kelly, I did say that there are persons here who would benefit from prayer. And I'm going to give you that mantle. I'm going to pass it over to you to just offer a short prayer for all the persons who have joined this evening. We are so awesome that we are so happy that the God that we serve, He knows everyone. He knows what we are going through, and we just want to put everyone in His hand, in His care, His able care. Go ahead.
Father, we thank you for being our God. We thank you for being our Father. We thank you for being such a caring, compassionate God. You know each of us by name. You know every strand of hair on our heads. You understand our circumstances. And you said in your words, if we ask, not wavering, it shall be granted. So today we ask you for peace. We ask you for comfort. We ask you for compassion. And we ask you for a desire to know you so that your character can be reflected in us, that your coming will be hastened. And for all mothers and fathers, Lord, who would have lost a child, we pray, Lord, that you may comfort them. And I am looking for them for that day, that grand day when you shall come and your angels shall bear those children in their arms. Bless us, bless Hillette and our program and all with whom we have interacted and who have been impacted. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And so, guys, we have to support Dr. Kelly on her program. When is the next episode, Dr. Kelly?
It's this Wednesday.
This Wednesday, 7:30
Yes.
p.m. Remember her YouTube channel. Repeat it for us.
It's a topic you don't want to miss. So we'll see you there.
I'm saying to repeat your YouTube channel.
Oh, it's Facing Life. You can look for Facing Life with Dr. Grace. And that's it, the YouTube channel. We will send you on the Facebook also. And what we'll do, we'll give you those links so you can send it to your...
I'll definitely pin them. I will put them in because these comments don't show up on the channel, on the chat. But I will certainly pin it when it's there. Thank you so much, everyone. Please go over to her channel and watch a little video. Like
and subscribe.
Subscribe. Thank you, everyone. And this is a great place to meet persons. We have some awesome people in the chat. Go and support their channels as well. Inspired for Purpose, Speaking Grace, Be Love Inc., yeah. Melissa Dunkley, S. Morgan, Domain Gordon, Teacher S. Higgins, Elizabeth Moore, Marcia Rule, Kim Dixon, Lynn Kelly. Listen, this has been a great evening,
And
and I'm
my WhatsApp number, you
just
could
being
hear my
here.
WhatsApp number 361-876-361-3328, and I will share with you the links.
Wonderful. All right. So have a great evening. Thank you for coming. This is Ishah Oasis, a place where you escape from the deserts of life. You have had a great drink. Go ahead, be great, inspire, and continue being awesome. Love you. This is your host, Hillette Virgo, Hillspiration with Coach Hillette.